why Mihawk is set to duel Fujitora, what made me think Fujitora is fated to fight the strongest swordsman. Now, my theory is not something like that. Alongside Fujitora, the Marines will attack the Cross Guild and arrest Mihawk and its members, as they are a major threat to the Marines. No, I am not going to explain that bullshit. This could be a reason, but I have something even more exciting that will blow your mind and make you think again that this can happen. Before I reveal this, you should know this about Mihawk, because without this context, it would be meaningless. So with that being said, grab your popcorn and stay tuned. As we know, both Mihawk and Fujitora are men of honor who follow the Bushido code like Zoro. Mihawk is a man who holds a grudge against the Marines and has faced betrayal in his past. Mihawk history suggests that he used to hunt Marines and was known as the Marine Hunter. This is an interesting parallel to Zoro, considering he was a pirate hunter, and in one way Zoro also had an indirect grudge against pirates, as his father Arashi was killed by pirates and Zoro ended up becoming a pirate hunter. It's also intriguing how Zoro ends up becoming a pirate despite being a former pirate hunter, while Mihawk ends up siding with the world government as a warlord to live in peace. Could Mihawk's grudge against the Marines be due to losing a close relative or friend to them, which led him to become a Marine hunter and mercilessly hunt Marines? We know Fujitora blinded himself after witnessing the atrocities committed by the world government in the name of justice, and Fujitora has been against the warlord system from the start. I believe Mihawk, who mercilessly killed Marines, then becoming a warlord, was one of the many world government actions that led to Fujitora blinding himself. This is similar to Zephyr's experience in film Z, where he lost his family and later his comrades to a pirate who became a warlord. I believe Fujitora, having endured a similar fate, aimed for a higher rank, like Smoker, to make decisions on his own and carry out justice. This led to the perfect timing for the world military draft, which inducted Green Bull and Fujitora as the new admirals, replacing Akainu and Kuzan. Mihawk is also said to be clairvoyant, meaning he can see it all, while Fujitora has blinded himself, which is an interesting connection. Another interesting point about Mihawk is from One Piece game, one of his abilities is to deflect all attacks thrown at him. However, I know that games cannot be taken into consideration for such cases. In the One Piece game Fighting Path, it says Mihawk possesses the ability to deflect any attack in the world. If you remember, Zoro's first interaction with Fujitora involved him deflecting and negating Fujitora's gravity to throw a flying slash at him. Zoro also deflected a flying attack to save the Sunny from Kaku. I believe Zoro might be trying to replicate Mihawk's ability, which he might have learned during his training. Mihawk is also stated to be inhuman, which I believe means that he shows no weaknesses at all in the battle. Even if he gets overwhelmed, this would also prove why he can deflect any attack thrown at him, even a gravity blade. Fujitora, on the other hand, shows his human and true perspective when he fights someone, as seen in Dressrosa. I believe this creates a good contrast between their fighting styles. Fujitora is quite reliant on his observation haki, while Mihawk is possibly one of the best observation haki users we could ever seen. During Marineford, when almost everyone was surprised to see Shanks show up out of nowhere, Mihawk was the only one who wasn't surprised at all. I believe Shanks used his observation haki to negate the perception of people in Marineford, leading to their surprise. Another reason for their potential fight is that Fujitora played an important role in abolishing the warlord system, which directly affected Mihawk's peace. Since the Cross Guild and its strongest fighter are a direct consequence of Fujitora's actions, it makes sense that Akainu would hold Fujitora accountable. He might have been assigned a new responsibility, which is dealing with the Cross Guild. Fujitora's sword is a supreme grade blade named Yakuza, which means the underworld in Japanese culture. The Cross Guild's operations are also very similar to how an underworld mafia operates, so their connections might run deeper than we think. Now, talking about swords, I wonder, how did Mihawk got his supreme grade blade? Many believe Mihawk obtained his blade after defeating the strongest swordsman before him. However, this theory doesn't make much sense. We don't know the identity of the swordsman Mihawk defeated to become the greatest swordsman. It's established that Zoro must defeat Mihawk to achieve that title, so it stands to reason that Mihawk had to defeat the previous strongest swordsman. Unless it is revealed who that was in the future, we can assume Mihawk defeated him so decisively that he is not even worth discussing anymore. This also underscores Shanks' greatness. Something interesting to note is that Mihawk did not receive any noticeable injuries from Shanks, unlike rivals like Akainu and Kuzan who bore scars. Mihawk's rivalry with Shanks seems more like a Dory and Bragi rivalry. They are as much friends as rivals. Even though Akainu was stronger, Kuzan left scars all over his body. If Shanks and Mihawk were really fighting at full strength all the time, they would definitely both get injured regardless of who is stronger. Another notable point is that we have never seen a scar on Mihawk. If Mihawk had defeated the world's strongest swordsman before him, he should have at least one scar. Becoming the greatest swordsman without a scratch doesn't make sense. There are two possibilities. First, the swordsman Mihawk defeated was not that strong, or Mihawk became so strong that his opponent didn't stand a chance. The second possibility is that there was no one considered the strongest swordsman before Mihawk. Back to the topic, how did Mihawk obtain his supreme grade blade and become the second person in history to permanently make it black? There are many theories about how black blades are made, and I'm fine waiting for Oda to reveal the answer. So how did Mihawk acquire Yoru? One possibility is that he found it somehow, which would be difficult since it's a supreme grade blade. The second option is that it wasn't a supreme grade blade initially, but making it black upgraded it to one. Before Mihawk fights Fujitora, there's a small possibility he might face S-Hawk, who will come with Fujitora. We know Buggy is also racing to find One Piece, and a recent panel suggests a final battle between rivals. We can clearly see Buggy against his best friend Shanks. If Shanks meets Buggy again, he'll likely find it amusing that Mihawk is now in this position with Buggy. If Shanks is indeed racing for One Piece, he might give Buggy the poneglyphs to even the odds since he doesn't have any. Buggy's crew might view this as Shanks bowing down to Buggy. I don't think the Cross Guild will run into the Straw Hats. They might might have a better chance of encountering Blackbeard, as Luffy has unfinished business with him. I really think the next time Mihawk and Zoro meet will be for their fight, which would be perfect, leaving each other as master and student and meeting again as equals. What I really want to see is Mihawk versus S-Hawk. There's a small possibility of this fight, and it would be a great way to showcase Mihawk's strength after over 20 years of waiting. S-Hawk has been hyped up and shown to be really dangerous, already clashing with Zoro and fighting Blackbeard. I think the Seraphim are getting stronger by the day, so by the time Mihawk and S-Hawk meet, S-Hawk will be even stronger, and Mihawk will have the chance to assert himself. Mihawk might be angry that the government did this behind his back, replacing and casting him aside. I think Mihawk would easily defeat S-Hawk. Regardless of what race he belongs to, a replica is still a replica. Before some people expect Mihawk versus Fujitora to be a one-shot, I want to clarify that it won't be. I don't think it will be a one-shot because Mihawk, unlike Shanks, doesn't go all out in his first attack. He uses a specific amount of power required for the situation. I would personally rather see a decent sword duel before Mihawk defeats Fujitora. It might be one of the most exciting fights in One Piece, and it would also allow us to delve deeper into both characters. I believe this is a better matchup than Mihawk versus Sengoku. Additionally, there's the issue of the three Seraphims, an important resource for the world government and the Marines, which were deployed to attack Buggy's Island. I believe Mihawk has dealt with them or will deal with them on screen soon, which could lead to Fujitora taking action. Now, for the final sauce, we know very little about Mihawk. It has been more than 26 years, and we still only know about one of Mihawk's attacks, the one he used against Zoro at the beginning of the story. If this duel happens, we could learn a lot about Mihawk and his fighting style, giving us a better idea of the formidable opponent Zoro has to face to fulfill his promise and dream. Oda should consider not revealing Mihawk's full potential, because if we already know it, we might not enjoy Zoro's fight against him as much. If Oda doesn't reveal much about Mihawk's strength, it would be more exciting when he fights Zoro. However, I still believe knowing a bit about Mihawk's strength would be beneficial. Even though Mihawk is Shanks' rival and the strongest swordsman in the world, we haven't seen him in action much, nor have we seen much of Shanks outside of his brief fight with Captain Mid, which ended before it truly began. This isn't enough to understand either Shanks or Mihawk's power. There's another theory that could help us understand Shanks and Mihawk's strength better. The theory suggests that Mihawk might also be a son of a holy knight, similar to Shanks. This theory has some evidence, such as the similarity between Mihawk's and Imu's eyes. So there's a possibility that Mihawk might be a god's knight based on how he talked about rabbits and how that ties into the rabbit hunts the celestial dragons. I think this theory could work because, as far as we know, the god's knights are made up of the best warriors from each celestial family, such as Garling from the Figarland family. With Mihawk's exceptional skills, he might be the strongest member of Imu's family, the Nerona. If that's the case, Mihawk's backstory of how he escaped would be incredible, but that's thinking a bit far ahead. Regardless, after Zoro's fight with Mihawk, I don't think Zoro will kill him. It would be cold, given that Mihawk spared Zoro's life and trained him. I'm curious to see what Mihawk does afterward. Among former antagonists, he might be the most laid back. He could go back to enjoying his life as the strongest swordsman. It would be cool if he opened a dojo, but I don't think that would interest him. What would you prefer, knowing a little more about Mihawk before he fights Zoro, or seeing him in action against Zoro just like at the start of the series? If you made it this far, thank you for giving your time and watching the video till the end. And if you can leave a like and comment, that would really help me.